Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for Saturday, October 29th, 2016. Let's jump right into VR, guys. Screw the preamble. Let's jump right into the news and let's talk about Microsoft. And an interesting article on Ars Technica. Now, the title of the article is, Will the VR Revolution be ushered in by Microsoft of all companies? I had other questions come to mind while I was reading this article. And I love Ars Technica. I think they present a nice broad range of technical news. Gaming, astronomy, just kind of all the geeky stuff I'm pretty much into, right? And they got into some of the discussion that I left out of my earlier Microsoft news updates, some specific functionality on the creators update that they will be launching, like being able to scan real-world objects into 3D painting, and that paint. Think about that. How long has it been since we've had a substantial update to MS Paint? Honestly, I've used that thing pretty much the same way, depending, sometimes I'll use Snagit or a tool like that, but I've gotten so fast because I'm so used to using Paint as a cut, paste, edit tool. Like at work, if I'm writing reports or creating documentation, it's the go-to program to copy, paste, alt print screen, and etc. Creating documentation, it's fantastic to do it quickly because it doesn't have a lot of overhead. So yeah, a new 3D update, that's going to be amazing. Now, if it's actually Paint with 3D functionality or if it sits alongside Microsoft Paint, I'm not sure. We'll find out. Now, the article goes into some of the advantages of Microsoft, but it wasn't the advantages that interested me, but let's discuss them. And one of them was simply setup time. Because of the tracking technology that they're employing, look, most of us agree, even the most hardcore Vive fanboys, that in a new environment, setting up the Vive is probably the lengthiest setup process of the three major units on the market, right? Desktop GPU style units. That unless you have a repeatable environment, like for me, you guys have probably noticed a lot of my Vive, the last two Vive games I've done are on that side of the man cave now, no longer there because of my wife doing PvP on that machine behind me there. Don't even ask, long story, but yes, she's a very small woman who loves PvP and she is hardcore about it, but whole other story. So we won't even get into that right now. Now, so for me, where the variables change somewhat, yeah, it takes a little bit longer to get the Vive set up. But with Microsoft, look, with inside-out tracking, they've got the potential here for a system that is so user-friendly in the setup department, setup time, right? It could literally be as fast as putting the HMD on your head, launching the software, and having it just do its auto-calibration cycle or whatever it ends up doing, which is huge to have that kind of convenience. Because there are times where I honestly think to myself, should I do a Vive game or a Rift game on the next video? And there are times where I just don't feel like setting up the Vive. And I'll just go with the Rift because I use the same breakout box. I use the Vive's breakout box. It's on Velcro, top of my PC. Throw the Rift in. The camera's always set up here on the desktop, good to go, right? So, yeah, there's that potential. But here's what I got out of the article that we really haven't discussed. But if you think back about Microsoft's presentation, it wasn't discussed really there either, and that is gaming. Most of us are into VR here. I think it's safe to say, those of you who watch the channel, gaming centric. Not that you don't do other stuff, but the main driver for most of you is probably gaming. I think that's a safe statement to make. Yet Microsoft touched on none of that, nor do we know of any development kits being sent out other than obviously probably between those allied vendors that they mentioned, the HPs, the Lenovo's, etc. But we haven't heard anything in the gaming community. So maybe Microsoft's designs on VR and AR are much broader strokes. And I think that is the potential genius. Where I loved their timing for the announcement, even if it kind of sabotaged a little bit the other three devices that I love, their timing from a marketing point of view was bang on. Plus, I'm almost convinced now, and I'll obviously need more evidence to this, that this isn't about gaming for them at all. Like the HoloLens, this is about creating a platform for VR, period. Whether it's productivity, creativity, education, gaming, whatever, I think that is what they're trying to achieve. So, are we going to get games on it? Probably. They may be even announced in the spring, but I wouldn't count on that same type of, 10 to 30 launch titles being available, not gaming wise anyways, but productivity titles. I bet you we're going to see quite a bit of those. So can't wait for the spring now, even more excited than I was before, but still just as freaking cautious, right? I want to see some more evidence, some more proof, and get closer to that target date and just have more knowledge going into it. Next news piece. Now that, and we've got 2 days left, including Halloween, that October is almost behind us. Even though those of you like me who have a Vive have complained that October has been a slow month for gaming, I think we all agree that it has been an amazing month for virtual reality. And Upload VR had an article on this, but I've added some more things to it. Think about what we've seen and heard in October. Oculus Touch announcements, I think technically that was a little bit before, but let's say the last 30 to 40 days, right, of news. Google Daydream just being weeks away. Those awesome looking controllers from Valve, which I'm excited about the Touch. I'm excited about these too. The thought of a wrist mounted gripless controller, that gets me really excited. The Note 7 no more. And yeah, you guys know I'm one of the schmucks who bought into the Samsung Note 7. I had to return my last one to get the free offer for the 7, but I got to keep the original. And essentially now it's what? It's a media player, right? It's MP3 player, gaming, and videos. That's pretty much all I can use it for. Am I paranoid that it's going to blow up or burn? Hell no. The numbers are so minuscule, I'm not worried about that. But I'm not an idiot. I keep it in a ceramic bowl, away from anything flammable. I turn it off at night. I mean, it's powered off right now. So if it were to burst into flames, there'd be no harm done. It would just be charred and set off my fire alarm, right? So, and then of course, PlayStation VR being launched in October. So holy crap, what a month for virtual reality. And I think we can sit back and say, damn, it was a good month. Now we just got to see what November's going to bring. And I know it's been quiet for the Vive and the Rift in terms of gaming. And you can call me on this if it doesn't turn out to be. But I am still convinced in my gut that 2 to 4 weeks, within the next 2 to 4 weeks, we're going to get exciting game announcements for both of those platforms. Sony PlayStation the third as well. Next news piece, let's talk a little bit about Intel's Project Alloy. Now, I talked about this project before, twice, I believe, and one of the things that I didn't really emphasize is the tracking technology. Like Microsoft, this thing has awesome potential because of the way the tracking works. Not only that, it's theirs. It's proprietary. RealSense, which is the camera technology that they're employing, it's theirs. Updating it, testing it, it's all Intel devs. So fantastic. And we're probably not going to see this to 2018. So there is a lot that can happen between now and then. But yeah, just to have a device, and it's going to blow minds. I mean, right now we're used to putting either a Gear VR on our head and all you can do is sit, or you walk around a little bit with the Vive or the Rift or the Sony and you're tethered. So just to be untethered and walking around, when that happens, when that becomes a thing, and I'm patient, I would be okay with just keeping things status quo, enjoying the tech that we have with those awesome controllers on the way, and just playing a hell of a lot of good, exciting games. They don't got to be in a rush for this. But when it does happen, I think it's going to be amazing. And we will literally look back at this and just say, wow, man, was that primitive. Next news article has to do, and this is a VentureBeat.com one, about safety research. And the title of the VentureBeat article is "The VR Industry Hasn't Bothered to Do Safety Research." And it's a really cool article. I encourage you to go have a read if you're interested in kind of those aspects of virtual reality. What they talk about, they cite a UCLA peer-reviewed study that examined rats in real and virtual environments and the changes in the rats' brains. Now, rats are not necessarily indicative of what a human brain is going to do, right? Ours are obviously more advanced from the point of view about being able to tell between virtual reality and reality, but a lot of things were said in that study. And if you go and look at some of those, and here's a quote from Mayank Mehta, who was the lead researcher: "The pattern of activity in a brain region involved in spatial learning in the virtual world is completely different than when it processes activity in the real world." And what are the ramifications of that, right? Some of the motion sickness, we can attribute that to inner ear, standard classical motion sickness, whether you're on a boat or in VR. But what about the things that we today still do not know? And it's a good point. There may be things about VR that are going to come to the surface beyond just the sickness aspect that hadn't been researched, hadn't been considered, and what are they going to do, right? It's kind of like sports teams with concussions, and I'm not saying for a second it's going to be that severe, but we may very well have stuff get uncovered months from now, years from now, that are going to be big deals because it's so new, right? And it wouldn't have been feasible for many of these companies to do the kind of studying, like the UCLA research study, to rule out a lot of this stuff. So it's going to be interesting just from that point of view in terms of health and safety. All right, I talked about this series. It's a 360-degree series. It's up in its entirety on JauntVR, and it's the series Invisible. So this thing is 5 episodes. They're about 7 minutes each. So you're looking at, 35 minutes in total of 360-degree content. And what they stress with this is that don't expect to just see traditional techniques employed in 360. So I haven't even seen a second of it, maybe a little bit on a trailer. So I don't know if that's accurate. Interested in if any of you have watched them. Is that it? I'm definitely going to go watch them either later tonight or tomorrow sometime, and I will let you know. But in the meantime, if you have, let me know in the comments. Is that true? Did they employ 360 in some new and innovative ways, or is it really just more of the same? All right, guys, that is it for Saturday's news. As always, cheers, and definitely catch you on the VR flip side.